Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 90. This week, an unbiased approach to choosing a property development course. Yes, in full disclosure, we are in the business, but this is going to be a very objective approach. Is that how I say that?
Yeah.
Very objective approach as to what you need to look for when you're considering doing a property development course. So let's jump into episode 90. Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 90. Today, Bob and I will be unpacking an unbiased approach and what you need to look for when you're choosing a property development course. So, thanks, Bob, for being here
For
yet again.
rocking up again.
For rocking up on this beautiful Sunday morning. We're doing this actually. Beautiful
it's a
Sunday
great day.
morning.
Yeah.
So, Bob,
Unbiased approach.
an unbiased approach. We'll start with the why, and we'll let to address that we're in the business, so you can go there first.
Look, we are in the business of development, property development, education, courses, mentoring programs. But look, totally unbiased. Let's just look at it very objectively. So I'm not going to talk about us or what we do or our programs or anything. It's all about you if you're thinking about getting a course and the sort of things that you need to know and understand and look out for, the questions you need to ask. That's what it's about. And I guess the first question is, do you really need to do a course? What do you think?
I think when it comes to property development, people probably would be best to do a property development course, mainly because of the amount of money that can be lost. And I suppose the amount of people that I've spoken to, the feedback, they might have tried one or two on their own and they wish they'd done a course prior because they either A, leave money on the table, or B, they make mistakes and they're just frustrated. And that's probably on a few times a week that I would have a very similar conversation to that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. These days there's lots of information about things on the internet, of course, and you can go trolling through that, and you should, to get a bit of a feel. But as you just said, a lot of money to be made in property development, a lot of money to be lost if you don't do it right, and you're not necessarily going to get the detail that you need to know. And it's the old story, when you're starting out, you don't know what you don't know, so you might think you know, but you haven't got it. And for the little bit of money that a course costs, considering the money you could make or could lose, it's just sensible.
Yes. Really, on the scheme of things, it's such a small amount. It's not like you're doing a cooking course to get better at cooking, or how to fix something in your car. It is this property development makes a truckload of money, and if the investment that you are not prepared to put into yourself to learn to do it correctly, it just doesn't make sense, really.
No, and that gets you through your first project. But knowledge is what you have forever. So by having a course at the beginning, hopefully you'll get through okay. And
realistically, Bob, there you can Google a lot of things, and people are so willing to help. So people will give some advice. But the thing with advice, it's not necessarily always correct.
No, you've got to watch where you get the advice from. There's plenty of advice. Everyone wants to give advice.
Oh, yeah, and in the most genuine way.
Yeah.
Generally, I would say in the most... Sometimes people want to give advice because they want to be seen as an authority, and so it makes them look good if they're telling you, but it's just... what's that level of experience? Where is it coming from? What's the reason behind that? There's a lot more to that.
Yeah, there is. So let's just have a look about a course.
Okay.
What sort of things are we looking for in a course? And I guess I would go to the author, whoever wrote the course or supposedly wrote it. In some cases, people that are marketing a course never actually wrote it. I do know that some people have gathered the information from a few other people's courses and almost got basically a ghostwriter to put something together.
Yep.
So one of my first questions would be, are you a property developer? In other words, the creator of the course, the author, if you like, are they a genuine property developer? And not just, somebody else? I've seen workshops run by accountants who are specialists in a particular area, but it's a micro area. It's taxation and structure in regards to property development. That's their area of expertise. What about the other 95%? Well, they probably grab people, off the shelf like an architect and something and everyone else. But there's that. We've got lawyers doing property development courses. I think it's really important that the course be written by a developer who's got something of a track record. But of course, how do you know?
Can you ask? Is that a question you can ask, Bob?
I'd like to think so.
Mm.
It's all about due diligence. You know, I'd like, if I was out there buying a course now, and, you know, obviously I do a lot of Googling, see who's out there, see who's got courses. I'd want to know if they are a property developer. But what would really help, I think would be really important, can I talk to that person? The person that wrote it, the promoter of it, the author of it, whoever that is. Can I actually talk to them on the phone about their course? And about them, I could ask them, you know, some questions about their history, how long they've been around, all that sort of stuff.
As opposed to just talking to a salesperson, Bob.
Oh, well, that's
that what you mean?
probably what you're going to get in most cases. You're going to get somebody else, not the person that wrote it. And I would honestly want to talk to the person who wrote it. And look, it might be that you touch base with somebody first who might qualify you to see if you're genuinely interested, that you've got the money and you want to do a course, and then perhaps set up a time to have a 15-minute chat even to the author. But I wouldn't be interested if I couldn't do that, to be honest. Like, I just don't want to be sold to by some slick salesman, because we know how salespeople work, and nothing against salespeople, but
that is their job.
That's their job, and that's how they make money. They get a commission, so they're out there to sell. And, you know, they've always got a counter answer for everything you say. So I'll ask you a question, you'll have an answer, and then they know, well, okay, if they say that, then I come
Down
back
their
with
list,
this.
say that.
And if they say that, then I come back with this. And before you know it, you bought yourself a course. And you know, that's the way it works. But to me, that's important, to be able to do that.
What's number 2 for you, Bob?
I mean, it's all about due diligence, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Due diligence, not only with property development, but with the property development course that you're doing. So what sort of due diligence would you need to do for a property development course, Bob?
Well, 2 parts to that. One's the author, which we sort of talked about, that to know that they really are a property developer. Can you actually speak to that person? And you can do your own due diligence. You can Google their name and see what pops up. Someone told me once a good thing to do is put somebody's name down and put the word scam after it. Not to suggest they're scammers, but that sort of can open a door for people that maybe don't have a good reputation in the marketplace for whatever reason. You know, sometimes it opens up. Sometimes there's forums or even websites I've seen built where people have been really unhappy about what they've got and have actually started up a website. And, anyway,
actually, that reminds me of a story. I went to that event probably about 2 months ago, maybe less than that. There was an event not far from here, and it was around money mindset, prosperity, that sort of thing. And I'm interested in that, so I'll go to that sort of thing. And obviously, it was a big pitch fest, and I get that. You know, you've gone to an event; it was free, so I'm figuring they're going to be selling something, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And if I was interested and I thought that was good, I would have gone for it. I love to learn, and I'm excited about stuff like that. And anyway, at the end, I realised it wasn't really for me. But I walked out, and there was a girl out the front. There's probably about 100 people there. There's a girl out the front, and she's on her phone, and she goes, "Oh my goodness, have you looked this guy up?"
Oh, I remember you telling me that.
And it just had all this terrible stuff about scamming underneath. But and it wasn't just one. There was a lot there, and a lot of complaints.
You're always
and stuff.
going to get the odd objector.
Oh, of course,
no
and they could be.
You were.
Bob, they could be planted by your competition. But they could be.
Oh yeah, that happens, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But that was funny when you talk to that person.
And he said I could have a phone call with him for $3,000, and then I thought, well, you could have a phone call with me for $3,000 if you like. But I was like, okay, I'll get back to you. And
yeah. I guess that's sort of funny in a way, because somebody did the due diligence at the event.
Yes,
I mean,
afterward.
they knew who was running the event. Why didn't they do it earlier and stayed home that night?
Yeah, I didn't. But to be fair, I didn't either. But I got something out of that. There was some motivation in there for me, and I realised that they would be trying to sell something, and had it, like I said, had it worked, I would have been in.
Yeah. So back to the 2 components: the person that created the course and the course itself. So that person. I mean, how long have they been a developer? How long have they been around? I think that's relevant, because there's periods within the marketplace where, honestly, my dog could make money out of property development, because things are just running so smoothly and values are going up. And, we've had that. Like post-GFC has been relatively easy. And having done it for 40 years, I've got a good spread of time to know tough markets and how they work. We haven't seen a tough market since the GFC anyway, but longevity is something. How do they go? Did they survive? Because the thing is, property development, things can go wrong. Things don't always go exactly to plan. But if you've if the author has been around for a long time, then they've probably been through lots of situations, of perhaps a builder going broke, high interest rates, high inflation, all sorts of things have gone on, and they've survived because they're still going, and so they'll have those answers, and that can be reflected in the course as well. Whereas somebody maybe recently come on the scene, it's been relatively easy, and they don't have that knowledge, haven't been in a street fight, so to speak, They've just been reading boxing magazines. So, what's the dollar value of their projects too? Because that's got a bit to do with longevity as well. I mean, how many projects have they done? They might have done their first project 20 years ago, but they've only done 5. Why is that? Did they go off and drive taxis for a while? I don't know. That's why I particularly like being able to talk to the person. I mean, you can ask these questions to the salesperson, but they're probably not going to have the right answers, or there'll be a response from them that'll get you off that track and back onto something else. I actually recently saw a new entry into the property development space who had a project. Who has created a small course. And I know for a fact they're halfway through their first project. They haven't even finished one yet.
Really? I don't even know. You'd have to tell me who that is later.
Later. But, look, it's a free country. Anybody can start a course. But this is why, before you throw your good money in, you need to do all that sort of due diligence. And I guess, the ability to ask questions, because some courses, here it is, you got it, bingo, great. But you're off.
Oh, you mean like once you've purchased the course, do you have the opportunity to ask questions? Yes.
Yeah, and
because as detailed as something is, it's hard to, or it could be further on, and they need to know that answer now. Because you know how the brain works. If you've got a question, it can actually stop your learning. You can get confused.
Yeah, although they could have bought a course 6 months ago, and now they're seriously into a project or looking at one, and they've got a question. Is there any opportunity to ask a question?
Yeah,
that's number one. And yes or no, I mean, that could be, there might be some Q&As, for instance, that go on. It could be a Facebook site where you can go on and talk to other students who've done the course. So is there some opportunity to be able to ask questions? And I guess I'll qualify that even further. If it is a Q&A, is it live?
Oh, yes, it must be a live Q&A, because an unlive, like a unlive,
dead
Q&A. If it's pre-recorded, it just means that person who's doing the Q&A is going to choose questions they know the answer to. So by being able to ask a live question and trust in its answer is really vital.
Yeah, because firstly they may have made up the question because they know the answer, or the questions might have come in by email or whatever, and they've got plenty of time for either themselves or somebody else to come up with the answer. And then so they just record it, and you can do takes and retakes, when you get it wrong, and you end up getting a pre-recorded Q&A, which has some value.
Yes.
Because there's a question and there's an answer, so it's not useless, but it's sort of like contrived, I guess you could say. So I love, personally, live Q&As, just totally off left field. Even when we do our live workshops, how people can jump up and ask questions. I love that sort of stuff. But anyway, that's me. And the same, perhaps a Facebook forum or something like that where you can get on and ask questions.
And that it's monitored by the person, but it's monitored. So
often it needs to be monitored to a degree because you do get some strange people on Facebooks. But it might be a closed Facebook, for instance, for the people who've done the course, and that to me is better because you've got probably a higher level of person in it because at least they've done a course.
Yes. Oh, yeah, just a free Facebook site. It's just anybody. Remember, everyone's punching themselves to look at their best. I mean, we don't ever go on there and look rubbish, do we?
No.
We try not to.
And, so that's... And also you've got to be a little bit careful on types of forums as to who actually answers. Because some people just love to answer to see their own post, or they feel really helpful, they want to feel helpful, but they mightn't have the experience to really give you the right answers. And quite often you're better off going to an expert to get the answers. Like I saw a post once on the Facebook site, and it was a question about a structural engineering design on some townhouses somebody was doing, and they had a question about the structural engineering design. I mean, seriously, that's not the stuff you put on a Facebook. What do you do? Well, why don't you ring up the structural engineer who designed it and ask them? Stuff like that. So, but they're all important. But anyway, a lot of that is about the author, if you like, of the course. But what about the course itself?
Does it have checklists? Does it have downloadable? Does it have templates to follow? That sort of thing?
Yeah.
Or how is it put together?
Yeah. Because, I mean, I guess, how detailed is it? Because we have seen some courses that are, they're relatively inexpensive. Of course, you often get what you pay for. Well, no, actually, you often don't get what you pay for, but not the detail that you need. Too general, too sort of big picture stuff, and that can happen. So I want to know the detail, because there's a lot of steps in property development. You could take if you like, you could do the big, the 6 or 9 steps. Find a site, do your due diligence, do your feasibility, get your development permit, get your building permit, get it built, get it sold. That's, I don't know how many steps that was, but obviously there's a lot more detail than that. How do you find a site? Oh gosh, there's a whole methodology behind that, and as well, there could be like 12 or 15 steps behind that, and so detail is important, because you can't miss things in property development.
And also, Bob, when you talk about that, how is it presented? Because some people prefer to learn by hearing, some people prefer to learn by seeing, some people prefer to learn by reading. Like, how is this? Is that available in every modality that supports the way that you need to take information in? Yeah,
that's important. Because even you and I are different in a way.
Totally different.
I'm not audible. You're very audible.
Yeah, I need to hear stuff. And you need to write. You like to see.
I need to see stuff, or I visualise in diagrammatic form. So often you read something to me, and I say, "Oh, look, can you just give me the copy?"
Or he'll say, "Oh, good, I'll read it to you," and I'll be like, "Perfect." I might write it and say, "Can you read this back to me?" Because I can hear it when I've written it. I can't necessarily. It's not as I don't know what's the word I'm after. It's not as clear rather than when I hear it. So when it comes to a course, if it's just written, does that work for you? If it's video, does that work for you? Like, how are all of the learning styles covered?
I think you need to have them all there.
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't just talk about me, but I know there's lots of people like me. I like to watch the video, because the video is 2 things. It's visual, but it's also audible, because I'm listening to the person who's got, teaching me. I'm listening to them, and I'm seeing them. Therefore, sort of in a way relating to a person. And they're saying stuff and I'm hearing it. And then also from a visual point of view, there might be things that might come up on the screen. Some dot points about what they're talking about, whatever it is. That's really good for me. I'm probably never going to go and read the script of that, but some people I know do. But also the audible side. I might have the audio, say, off the videos, and I could listen to that when I'm driving or in the train on the way to work or at the gym or, whatever I'm doing. So I will use audible sometimes to reinforce what I've already seen. Podcasts are like that too, hey? You can jump on YouTube and watch this podcast. You can get on...
It reminds me of there's somebody I know, can I say his name? Kyle. I was listening to the course so many times. He reckons he can recite it.
He probably can.
Yeah, he's pretty detailed.
Yeah. So I think having it in all modalities, at least the 3 you mentioned, is important. That's another thing I think you should look for in the course when you're out there. So, and although I said it needs a lot of detail, it also needs to be easy to follow.
And succinct, like detail but succinct, but not waffle, if you know what I mean. Not unnecessary confusion, and it needs to be stepped out in a way that...
Sequential.
Yeah, properly, like follows on.
One thing follows another, follows another.
And that takes... a couple of years ago we launched a different program, a membership program, and that was my first actual time of recording an online course myself. And crikey, that takes a lot of practice to get that right. It's different to having a podcast where we can jump all over the place. It does take a lot of work to get it correct, to get it in a way that people need to hear it. Yeah, it is way more strategic than you think.
Yeah, exactly.
And that impacts how people will take that information on. Like if Bob and I are sitting here talking about this now, it's different. We're not teaching you something, we're having a discussion. But if we were teaching you something and we jumped back up and jumped back down, it just gets messy for the brain, and your brain gets confused.
And that actually comes back to the person's ability to be able to teach. Because there's people that have a head knowledge and they know all the facts, they can't always relay them properly in a coherent, easy to understand language sort of way.
And I don't think that is so true. Because if you're not a natural teacher, one, you can become frustrated if it's live, different for a course that we're talking online, but somebody teaching live can become frustrated if they're somebody like who is impatient or doesn't have just doesn't have that level of tolerance or can't articulate well enough that people can understand them.
Yeah, so it's this balance between having the detail, which is important, making it easy to understand, and have that ability to transfer that
Sequentially,
but and to transfer that across via a video to a watcher, a viewer.
yes, yeah,
And there's a few parts there, and some people have some skill and not others, and it sort of is fragmented somewhat. If you got all of them, if that person's got all of them, then it comes over like that, and I think that's important. But the thing is, like you often don't know that until you bought it.
yes, true.
But which is why ideally you want to talk to that individual who wrote the course and not a slick salesperson,
Yes,
because you can gauge from talking to that person. You can ask them questions. You know, you can get a really good feel for that individual and their passion for teaching. Because you can ask questions like, why did you get into it? Or, you know, if you, even the old one I get occasionally, like, because we still develop properties, of course, as well as teach, but if you're a developer, why you bother teaching it? You know, isn't teaching for people that failed at, you know, doing it? Like a lot of university professors or whatever, you know.
nothing against the university professors.
No, not at all. No. My answer is simple, you can do both, but anyway.
Yeah. And so what about, and does it combine, you know, what comes with the online course, apart from the ability to ask questions? Does it come with extra? Does it come with any live training? Like, what else does it come with? And what does, you know...
What do you get for your money? Like,
yeah, I think that's it. What do you get for your money? And remember, a classic Bob saying, money is what you pay, value is what you get. So what do you get? What value are you getting for this investment in yourself?
Yeah. And so these days courses are pretty well video based.
Yes.
I think the days are gone when you just get a couple of manuals and some CDs, which is what I did when I started out, because that's the way it was done.
Yes.
So you got video content, okay, that's great, but what else is there? And I'd like to see some downloadables that come with it. For instance, things like checklists.
Yeah, I said that before. I said
Yeah, you did.
checklists and flowcharts.
Yeah,
and,
all that.
And like templated documents, so you would know what something looks like, what you actually need to get, what you need to do.
Yeah, I think that supports the video learning. So
Yes.
if in the video learning the person's talking about, let's just say, finance, let's say, and they're talking about, well, you know, at this point you need commercial finance, so you'll need to get a commercial valuation from a commercial valuer. Well, it would be good if I could look at what one of those looks like, for instance.
Yep.
Or, you know, whatever it is.
Because remember, we think in pictures as well.
Yeah.
So when you think, you see something in a picture.
Yeah.
So that it allows your brain to go, relax.
Yeah,
understand.
because somewhere along the line, as a developer, you're going to have to, you know, get finance, and your commercial value will get a valuation. It's good to see what it looks like now. It's part of the training. That's like a sample document, for instance. But what about? I think you mentioned checklists. So. Let me think. Okay, so what about when you're doing your due diligence? When you're looking at a site and you're doing your due diligence,
what do you need to tick off
to make sure it's good? It hasn't got problems that could, you know, come back and bite you. Well, you may never have looked at a property before, and certainly, like on the video content, they're probably talking about due diligence, but a checklist that would be really helpful. So if you've got a due diligence checklist where you could go through each of the items and sort of tick them off, you know, some are relevant to this particular deal, some aren't, but at least something like that. I'd want to see stuff like that, not just hear the video, but see documents. Give me some checklists to make my life easier when I'm actually got to the point of doing this stuff. You know, I think I'd want to see that in a course, for sure.
tools.
Tools. What things? Things that might help you. Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, if something
Feasibility calculator.
Well, we have one. That's probably what jumped into your mind. But yeah, that's an example of a tool. I know some people have similar things in their courses and some don't. But if you've got to crunch the numbers, which we have to do in property development, because it's all about numbers. Property development is all about numbers. So
I suppose then you could actually buy one separately.
You can buy stuff
or create your own. You can.
Look, you can buy
Awesome.
a fee study, you know, you can buy a State Master, pretty expensive stuff. Or maybe you don't need something as powerful. But, you know, do you get something, like that example you gave, do you get something to help you do a feasibility and like a tutorial, that sort of stuff? But that's it. Some people offer things like RP data or Australian property data.
National property data.
No, national property data, always get it wrong. You know, whatever it is, are there some tools? I mean, they're available out there anyway. But some
does
tools
it
are free.
come with your training?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of free tools out there, Die Before You Dig and Good Counsel websites and all that sort of stuff. But there are some paid ones.
Yeah.
What do you get? Do you get any of those as part of the package? I mean, that's relative to what you pay as well, of course. But, yeah.
But we're just talking about property development courses right now, just a course itself.
Just courses, yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the word...
Training
and in-person training and as opposed to it.
So is the course, once you purchase it, are you on your own and that's it? Does it come with any opportunity to ask questions? Yeah. Does it come with any follow-up live workshops or trainings? That'd be another thing. Yeah, what's incorporated with it?
They're quite different. Learning online is great. I mean, it's a huge industry these days because you can do it by yourself in your own time. And that's why it's great. And if you're really keen, you can make time and hurry up the process. So, I mean, that's what's so fantastic about online. Quite different when you got like live in-person training.
Yeah.
Is there a component in the course that does that, where you could go somewhere in a live situation, you know, like a boot camp or workshop, something like that, where you meet other people, where you get live training, where you can ask live questions and all that. Is there a component of that in it? That'd be another thing I'd want to know. So
it's like, what are the extras that come with it? What adds value to that?
Yeah. There's basic things that you have to have, of course, but then there's other things that are really good as well as, you know. And
I suppose, lastly, which can be somewhat sketchy, I don't know the word, is reviews. Checking. I mean, we put somebody's name and look up scammer. But what are the reviews? And I do know that you can get fake reviews. Someone told me recently.
Yeah,
but I think there's a way you can work that out. I think the wording. I'm not 100% sure on that. But what are the reviews like? Are there?
Yeah. Well, if there's none, I'd want to know why.
Yeah. You know what? I recently got fooled and talked into by a blooming salesperson to pay for something.
Yep.
And I bought something that wasn't what it was. And then you cannot see any reviews. I'm like, what an idiot I was. Because generally, I don't even go out for dinner without checking the reviews at a restaurant and looking at the menu. And I don't know, it was such a good salesperson. So they talked me into buying this thing, which was reasonably costly. Well, not too bad, but it was enough. And you couldn't look at the reviews because I really was going to go on and give them a bad review because they ripped me off, basically. You didn't get anything what they said you were getting. Yeah. And, oh, my goodness, there was no way to see reviews. There were none, which meant... It was actually it was to get a website made, just a little on the side thing I had going on. Getting a website made, no, not one way to see reviews. What an idiot.
Yeah. Oh, well, look. Yeah, we've all made that mistake.
Yeah. So, reviews, in this case, if the reviews are switched off on for... or maybe I could have found them at another place. There has to have been a place, but I didn't spend any more time on it because I was too angry.
Yeah, you know, but if someone's got a heap of 5-star reviews, that's probably a positive thing.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, 4 or 5, 4.5 average, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever's good.
Yeah, some decent reviews.
Decent reviews, yeah. So
and even testimonials as well as reviews. People that write... testimonials. I do. Yeah. Yeah, I know we both started laughing.
There's written testimonials, but then like
there's video.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. But even in the written ones, like sometimes you see RJ from New South Wales. That's the name of the person.
Yeah, RJ, put your real name down.
Yeah. Or
anyone could write that.
Yeah. And look, I know people that just write their own testimonials and make up a name and that, you know. So I think a lot of people these days treat written testimonials like that with not a lot of, you know, water.
unless it's got a full name and even a photograph as a much better way of dealing with that. Seeing. And then, of course, video testimonials.
Well, at least it shows that it's a real person.
Yeah.
Whether they're paid to do it or not, I don't know. But if there's a whole heap of people and they're using their real names and you know, you can even get permission via the author of the course to phone some of them and ask them, then that's about as genuine as you can get, and that is pretty genuine, yeah.
Well, Bob, I think do you want to just tie off on the must-haves and then we'll give away our free book today. But so if you want to let's just summarise the must-haves of a property development course if you're thinking of doing one.
Okay. Due diligence on who wrote it, who they are they really a developer, how long they've been around, all that sort of stuff. And ideally get to talk to them. I think that's important. Also on the course itself, all those things we mentioned, needs the right amount of detail, needs to be easy to understand. It needs to, if it's in the different modalities that suits your particular type of learning, then that's great. Know exactly what comes with it, not just a video, but all sorts of other downloadable things that are really useful to you as well. And yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's just, there's a lot of money involved in buying courses, but if it's not a good course, if there's stuff missing, if there's stuff that's incorrect, then it's going to cost you money. So it's really worth doing some serious due diligence on both the author and the course itself.
Yep, basic stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's. We tried to be as unbiased as possible, but I'm going to give away the book right now. Secrets of Property Millionaires Exposed. This week going to Reese Meredith. Reese, this is going to be in the post to you. And I hope you enjoy. Remember, straight to page 121, where all the good stuff is about property development. But you may still enjoy, there's investing, renovating, lots of other strategies.
And guess what? I spoke to Reese yesterday. Yesterday, was it Saturday?
There you go.
There's an example.
There you go.
He had some questions.
He did have some questions. Okay, well, we hope you have a fantastic week and found this somewhat useful. We will catch you next week for episode 91. Bye.
Bye now.